Yeah, g'day, Mark here, and welcome back to my channel. Now, what is a punch grinder, and why do I need one? SK. I know SK is a manufacturer of like hand tools, like wrenches and stuff. Pretty sure my dad's tools were mostly SK before someone broke into his work vehicle and stole all his tools about 30 years ago. That sucked. Oh yeah, the hinges need a bit of tweaking. If you're like me and you've watched all the videos from Rob Renzetti and Stefan Gotteswinter, etc., you know those guys do the coolest things with a punch grinder. So having seen all the fun that the cool kids have with these things, I kind of wanted one of my own. Punch former, punch grinder, whatever you want to call it. So there we have it, the legendary SK Perf Former. Guessing is made in Illinois, no idea when. I've searched the internet. As far as I can tell, the auction for this is the only occurrence of a SK Perf Former in the internet. I can only speculate that it dates from the 1960s or 1970s. But if anybody has any brochure or manual or literature on this thing, I'd love to get a copy of it. Please drop me a line in the comments section. So to the original questions of the intro, what's a punch grinder? Well, it's basically just a small, highly precise spindle used for grinding punches. And as for need, well, this is a hobby, so need's pretty relative, so I thought I'd better have a play with one. If we look back in time in manufacturing, especially the 50s, 60s and 70s, before electronics became common, a lot of things and timing and stuff that we do today with electronics was done mechanically. And to mass produce those mechanical parts, you had a lot of stamped parts. Let's take a look at this Polaroid camera from probably the late 1950s, early 1960s. Now this has a rangefinder mechanism made up of a bunch of stamped steel parts. Each of these parts, like this one here, were probably made out of a long band of steel, maybe an inch wide, that ran through a punching machine, and initially it punched the oval holes, there's 3 of them, punched probably the square hole which has a tab folded over, and then punched out this viewfinder hole. Stamping and punching are extremely productive, high-speed ways of making a lot of identical parts, but of course they require quite accurate punches that have to be ground and hardened to be able to smash out all of these little features. And that's where the punch grinders came in. And that's probably why they were so common back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, maybe even into the 80s. Whereas today it's a bit of a specialty device. Nowadays a lot of this sort of stuff's done with electronic displays, and therefore there's not as much stamping and pressing going on. And the rest of this camera is also made from a lot of parts that were stamped out of sheet metal, like this here. There are a couple of different flavors of punch grinders. This is probably the most common, with just a single axis of offset of the V-block. You can only move it along this axis here. Some of them can also be offset side to side. This one's got a pretty large through hole. The ones with a double slide tend to not have the through hole. Now, there's a few different ways you can get one. You can basically get these in sort of 3 quality levels. 4, I guess. Used ones like this, which were probably high quality ones made back in the 60s, 70s and 80s in this very standard style. Today you can buy knockoffs of this which have just standard ball bearing races inside them. You can move up a notch to the high quality Taiwanese made Jintex, which have the clamp ball bearing races inside them. Or you can go the whole hog to a Suburban Tools, which makes both a basic model like this, but also a higher end model with the 2 axis of movement, and also a much finer division in the indexing system. In addition to pure curiosity, one of the main reasons I got this one is to be able to do some small cylindrical grinding on the ends of, say, shafts for bearings and stuff, at least on small stuff. In this case I got lucky because I was talking to Stefano Bertelli of Proveda on Dr. DRO fame, and I was mentioning my punch grinder envy, and he said, I'm just watching an auction which ends in a couple of days where there's 2 of these things. So Stefano offered to bid for me, and luckily I got it for only 120 bucks. And it was also very lucky that my mate Luke happened to be in Chicago at the time, and he actually brought it back with him. So thanks a lot, Luke and Stefano. That was brilliant. I was assuming, since it came from the States, that it would be an imperial machine, but all of the fasteners are definitely metric. I really like that it's got the 4 holes in the front, so it'd be pretty easy to make up some sort of a chuck adapter for a collet chuck or something if necessary. So it's Basically a very precise spindle with an indexing system. In this case, every 15 degrees, 24 index positions per rotation. There's a set of stops to restrict rotation. I guess you can also use that to fix rotation. Although there's a hole here on the back, which also is called lock, and there's nothing in there. So I'm not sure whether a screw goes in there or a pin. If anybody knows, please tell me in the comment section. And I also believe that the stop pin and the stop blocks can also be used with gauge blocks to set a specific angle in between the main index positions. But I don't have a copy of the sine table to actually do that, so I'd have to calculate it. The workpiece to be ground gets held in the V-blocks, and then the whole V-block can be slid side to side to center the part or to provide a specific offset if you're trying to grind a cam or some other feature. Now if we loosen off that V-block completely, slide it all the way out, we can see that it's got a rack on the underside here, which unfortunately has got a bit of tooth damage to it. And that rack is supposed to be driven by a little pinion which gets mounted in this hole here, but it's missing. I'm not really sure how important it is because this rack and pinion is pretty much normally used for just the rough positioning as far as I can tell. All the videos I've seen show the people using just the light tapping and bumping to do the final precise positioning. Now these punch formers or punch grinders were obviously a staple tool in the toolmaker's grinding arsenal, and you can kind of tell that these are designed for real precision when the nominal 3-inch center height gets measured at production and they engrave the actual measured center height on each unit made. On top of their usage as like a indexer or spin dexer, you also have the opportunity to easily remove the handle. And I can definitely see myself making up a pulley to go on here and then driving the thing for some light cylindrical grinding jobs. All in all, it just feels amazing. There's no tactile play in the bearings whatsoever. The index positions also feel extremely rigid with no play whatsoever. Yeah, it certainly feels like a really nicely made tool. So also in the box there's 2 other accessories. This looks shop made. Well, obviously it's not purely metric because this is imperial. Just a taller clamp. Also go in multiple locations, I guess. And the second tool in the box is this fancy little bit of steel here. Very massive. And it's designed with a V that gets clamped in the V-block. And then in this end, okay, that must come from a different kit because this is imperial. You'd clamp your little diamond bit in there. And now you can use it for radius dressing of a grinding wheel. So an SK perf former. Right, these hinges have obviously got bent out of shape. They're supposed to grip, but of course they don't, so they just need bending back in by the looks of it. Don't know how much bending these are going to take before they start breaking. Mail time. This is coming from Martin. I think I know what this is. Martin in Berlin, because he bought a Schaublin 125 CNC, same as mine. The only difference is his one's already been converted some years ago to, I think, Mark IV. But there were some issues with it, I think, so it looks like he's going to redo it as Linux CNC. By the way, Martin put up a really good video on his Schaublin 125 CNC when he first got it. So I'll leave a link up here on the right. Oh, what have we got here? That's amazing. This is a spindle speeder, isn't it? So it looks like it's a 1 to 5 RPM increase with a 26,000 RPM top speed. Can't really read the rest. Very nice. If anybody's got a user guide or user manual for this specific model, I'd love to have a copy of it. Thanks. So running this with my 4,000 RPM spindle would give 20,000 RPM on the spindle nose. Thanks for sending that. I've been looking for one of those for ages, actually, because I've been sort of thinking about how am I going to go about getting enough RPM to do engraving. Because we'd been talking about this one here. He got a lot of tooling with his Schaublin and a lot of tool holders. And amongst the tool holders, he got 2 of these, and they are gang tool holders. So you'd mount this in a tool position. And then you could mount something like your center drill, a drill, and a boring bar. And get 3 different tools going on one location. Oh, in fact, you can even do a 4th one. I'm pretty sure this is not an original Schaublin part. I think it's going to be shop made, but whoever made it made a beautiful job of it. It's all very nicely machined. Fair bit of cantilever on the whole dovetail. You certainly wouldn't want to crash it, because I'd imagine with that amount of lever it should be quite easy to break a dovetail out of the tool changer. But I could see it being very useful for some repetitive parts. And Martin said because he got 2 of these gang tool holders with his lathe and there was no way he was ever going to use both of them, he decided to give one to me, which is just fantastic, mate. Thanks a lot for your generosity. Also in the box was this, which I'm going to assume is the anti-rotation bar. Oh, wait a minute, that can't be the right place to put it because that is connected to the drive taper. Must be this one. Yep, that's the one. Right, the first job I'm going to set this up to do is just to resharpen the points on my center punches. Now ideally I'd have a magnetic sine plate to mount this punch grinder onto the surface grinder, but I don't own one, so we'll just clamp it in the vise. Now the actual angle here is not that critical. Should re-level the machine, shouldn't I? So we'll call that a 60-degree grind, shall we? I just need to bump this into alignment to make the punch centered on the axis of rotation. It's kind of a bummer with these punch grinders that they're always on the far side away from the camera. It's important that you do this kind of grinding slightly after the middle point in this direction, so that if you by mistake hit the wheel, it just pushes the wheel out rather than sucking it under and damaging stuff more. Well, that's looking pretty nice. Well, a quick look at that tip shows that it's not quite sharp yet. So I'll put that in for a bit more. Just goes to show how damaged it was. I should regrind these more often now. Given that I'm clamping onto a knurled surface, I'm not sure how round that's going to turn. but we only really care about the tip anyway. Well, that's looking pretty nice. While I'm at it, I've got a second center punch from Hatsid. I better sharpen that one as well. Now this one's got a 45-degree point on it. Looks like 40 is about as far as I can get and still spin past the vise. Oh, then it gets 40. Oh, that one came out nice as well. So while this is just a rough, ready first use of my punch grinder, I'm pretty darn happy with that. For the sort of cylindrical grinding I picture myself doing with that punch grinder, I think it's going to work great. Now the next thing I wanted to try with my punch grinder, some of my wood chisels have got a pretty beaten up end on them. It's too much to just easily hone out, and I had a look and it seems that 25 to 30 degrees are kind of standard chisel grind angles. And since this punch grinder can be set to exactly any angle you like, I think I might give it a go at trying to grind in my chisels with it. Now I could either just use the indexing and set my 30 degrees like that, and then just use a G-clamp to clamp the chisel onto the side of the V-block. Why is that angle so off? It looks like it needs to be rotated a bit in this direction. Try that and see what happens. Well, twisting that around has made it somewhat better. Tips does seem to be nice and square, but I've still not quite got a square grind across the whole thing. Just twist it a wee bit more, see how that goes. I need to play around with that a little bit more. I didn't quite get that square, but it's certainly a nice and easy way to re-establish the primary angle on the thing. Obviously I'll need to dress the burr off the back and give it all a good hone up and stuff, but that worked. Yeah, so the punch grinder is a very versatile accessory for grinding. You can use them for all sorts of different things. That's why we all need one. So David's come to visit again.
Hello again.
What have we got this time?
This time we've got the gib from my cylindrical grinder.
Yep.
And I need a step in the skip about 60 microns high.
Okay. Let's see if we can make that work. It's really got quite strong rest magnetism, this particular chuck.
Do you already have a demagnetizer?
Nope.
Because I know somebody, he has one and he doesn't need it.
Ah.
Maybe I will call him today.
Is it hardened steel or do you think it's just mild?
It's soft.
Okay.
Do you have a dial indicator?
It's behind you there, up here. I'm guessing that that's designed for putting
Yes,
magnets on.
makes sense.
Not gonna do anything.
Fahrt mit. Das haben wir da.
My apologies to David and to all of you. I kind of screwed up with the microphones here. I think our microphones went flat and I didn't notice it. So let's get some reggae going. So there we have it, the punch grinder. For me, this is a tool which I'm hoping opens up some extra capabilities that I don't otherwise have. Specifically in this case, some light cylindrical grinding. I guess I still need to make that pulley for the back of it to be able to motorize this. I still need to play around with it a lot more, find out what its greatest uses are for me and stuff. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I've got a few other videos that you may also enjoy. So I suggest you stick around because whatever comes up here is going to be just right for you. Thanks for watching.